friends, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a beautiful day from wherever you're tuning in today. We have some exciting news. Our little boy has finally arrived, just shy of that 40-week mark. We were waiting so patiently, and he decided to join us Earthside on July 1st at 4:40 a.m. Been an entire week since he had joined our family, and I've kind of been able to process and reflect and relive in those really blissful, challenging moments of his birth. And I think I am ready to share with you guys now. I'm assuming if you're watching the birth video, you're not too squeamish on all things birth, but this is a birth video, so you'll see birth. About a week or so leading up to his birth, my body was definitely telling me that things were coming close. I was feeling ready. My hips were feeling incredibly unstable. You know, my back hurt, my pelvis hurt, everything kind of hurt at that point. And we were just really ready to meet our new baby. We did not know the gender, as I've mentioned before. I also thought that, as this being my third pregnancy, I thought I would have a little bit more patience as we neared that due date. I had a list of things that I wanted to do while I was pregnant. Of course, some things I didn't quite get to, and that's okay, it is the way it is. But one of those things that I really wanted to do at least once was to paint my belly. And so on our due date, June 30th, we decided to paint Mom's belly. The girls had a turn at using my belly as a canvas for their doodles and drawings. Lux kind of just painted half of my stomach, some crazy colors, and Luna gave some nice shapes. And I also painted my own. It was definitely challenging to do it myself. It was quite difficult to kind of see the entire scope of my belly. I had originally planned a mandala. I did change it up a little bit and incorporated a sunset over the ocean with a little palm tree. And although I didn't notice it at the time, it had that symbolic representation of the sun setting, literally my sun setting, dropping down into the waters. Now I'm gonna hold that point for a second. If we keep going with that symbolism of the waters, we were putting the girls to bed, and I was laying in our bed and I said, Jerry, can you please just get the girls in their pajamas and I'll come say goodnight and tuck them in when they're ready, because I was exhausted. I felt the deep urge to rest, and within 5 minutes of me saying that, I felt this tiny pop and all my water started breaking on our bed, and it was kind of crazy. I sat there, laid there kind of in shock for a second, and I was like, Jerry, I think my water just broke, or I'm peeing myself and I can't stop. Being 40 weeks pregnant, either or was a possibility at that point. Alrighty, we were getting the girls ready for bed, and I was laying in bed, and all of a sudden my water broke. It was like a little pop, and it just felt like I peed myself. So called the midwife. She said let her know if anything contractions start, but for now things are getting started, guys. As I am in labor, baby number 3 is making his or her way earthside. It is 10:45-ish. So the girls are in bed, but they're talking and they're giggling and they're talking about baby. So it was definitely my water completely soaked the bed. This was about 10:30 p.m. that night. There was a very brief moment where I got super excited and told the girls they didn't have to go to bed because baby was on the way. Jerry quickly turned it around, said, no guys, go to bed. Mom's gonna be fine. We might have a baby for you guys to meet in the morning though. So the girls went to bed. I called the midwives. I let them know my water broke. They made sure everything was good, that the fluid was clear. They said to let them know when contractions had started, because my water breaking really was the moment that my labor had started. Of course, aside from the previous aching and soreness, this was really the let's go moment to welcoming our baby. I always tell people that it's not gonna happen like it does in the movies. Your water doesn't just dramatically break unless you are like a 4% in women. Usually you have some sort of, you know, you lose your mucus plug, or your contractions will start, or some other more subtle way of starting your labor. That was definitely not the case. I think karma bit me in the butt in that one, because that's exactly how my labor started. A big dramatic sploosh of water. About 10 minutes later, my contractions had started. Quite mild, still quite spaced apart. But I let the midwives know, and they just then reassured me that they would come to my home whenever I felt like I needed them there. So the girls' labor were both very long, over 24 hours, ooh, good one. It was a 26-hour and Lux was a 28-hour birth. So I wasn't expecting him to come quite fast. I was expecting to be in labor for, you know, a good day or so. And of course I said that, and then within 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, things just gradually started picking up. So I was recording, keeping a track record of the times and the lengths of my contractions, and we got to about 45-second long contractions, about 3 minutes apart, and I called the midwives. I said, I think I'm ready for you guys to come. I felt really good. I felt I was handling the intensity well. I could feel it increasing. I was using breath, using movement, using music. But I was also very surprised at how quickly my labor was progressing, how quickly that intensity was escalating. So I thought, you know what, let's get the midwives here, get the pool set up, and go from there. Of a side note, and I did touch slightly on in a previous video, where the girls were amidst all this. So I had intentions on letting the girls be a part of the birth as much as they wanted to be. It kind of just worked out that I got the time and the space I needed when I needed it most. So I actually ended up laboring and birthing while they were sleeping, which at first I was a little sad that they didn't get to be a part of the birth. But then again, everything is in divine timing and unfolds as it should, so it was just quite perfect. I was able to put on my birth playlist, light my candles, set my intentions. Midwives came at about midnight, 12:30 maybe. Midwife team was absolutely amazing. I could do a whole video and just how much I loved them. So once they came, I labored a little bit in the bedroom. They had the rebozo to get baby into that ideal position. With Luna, my doula also had used a rebozo. It's woven fabric that is made here in Guadalajara. And through the chain of connection, the woman that had sold my doula, or her company, the rebozos that they use for births in Alberta, is from Guadalajara, and she is actually the one that connected us to my midwife team here. So that's just a little tidbit, but again, I'm all for the stars aligning, and that was definitely one of those moments. They did some work with the rebozo. I did some squatting and some work with the breath and breathing baby down. I don't really remember how long I was in there for. I'm gonna say maybe an hour. We moved over to the bathroom. We had intentions on me getting in the shower before into the birth pool, just to kind of ease into the comfort of the water. But because we were filling up the birth pool with the hot water, we did not have any hot water in the shower. So scratch that idea. Straight to sitting on the toilet, which sounds kind of funny. But if you take a look at this picture, That was the position they had me in. Probably my least favorite. I only stayed there for probably 5 contractions. I did not love it. It was probably the most uncomfortable, although I know it was probably the most progressive as well. But I stayed there for a little bit. I had a nice rest with my head against the wall and the pillow. Thank goodness for a tiny bathroom. And then we did end up moving right to the birth pool. So I got into the birth pool at about 2, maybe ish. And that was a game changer. I had the opportunity to go in a labor pool during Luna's birth, and I remember just loving the water. And I think just knowing that I was allowed to birth in the pool here made it that much more inviting to just release and let go and really connect to that element of flow and water. So at this point, labor was getting a little bit more intense, as it does. I was really having to focus on breathing during contractions, really focus on that goal, on that calm mindset. But I still just felt really good. I felt in control and in my own power, which is something that I struggled with, really finding my voice with the girls' births. There was a point that Jerry was talking to the midwives and a contraction started, and he just kept talking, and I was like, can you just shut up and let me labor? So I think that's the only time I like snapped on him. But he was also incredibly supportive as well with anything I needed, with pressure on my hips or lending me a hand, literally helping in whatever way he could, just being there for my side support. So there is actually a way to check how dilated you are without having to internally check mom. And I knew this, and I asked the VBAC doctor if that was a possibility, and he denied that. I really didn't love that about my birth with Lux. I don't want to say I felt violated, but it isn't not 100% necessary internal check. I would have preferred to go without. There's actually a dark pink or purple line that starts to grow, starts to kind of crawl up the small of your back. Right in between your bum crack a little bit, that will identify how dilated you are in your cervix, which is absolutely amazing. And that's how they could see how dilated I was. With Lux, I was at 8 centimeters. I had the urge to push as I was reaching that 9, and I got in trouble from the nurses. They told me that I could not push, and I had a really hard time navigating how to resist the natural urges of my body, which is kind of a birth trauma that I dealt with Lux. But coming into Rio's birth, they let me do what I needed to do, when I needed to do, how I needed to do it. And it was a very freeing, liberating experience because of that. I'll say it was at about 9 centimeters, maybe 10, and I had that urge to push, and I was in the pool. Contraction would come stronger, and I would have that urge to breathe it out for a bit and then push near the end. And I remember that kind of cycling through a couple waves of contractions. Got to the end, I could just feel his head deep down in my pelvis, and the midwife said, stick your finger up your vagina and tell me if you can touch the baby's head. And I did, and I was like, oh my god, I can feel its head. It's right there. I can't, it's so close. And it was probably like a knuckle up. It was the craziest thing, almost, between worlds. And I want to say maybe 5 contractions, 10 contractions after that, I was instinctively pushing. I was leaning over the side of the birth pool. Jerry was in front of me. I was holding on to his arms. And as the contraction would come, I could feel his head coming out, and the contraction would fade, and I could feel baby kind of receding back. And with each contraction, a little bit more would come. And my midwife said to me, just open your body. And when I look back at the video, at that moment, I uncurled my toes and I pushed, and I felt his head and the rest of his body just kind of come out of there and be caught by the midwives and that warm, welcoming water that awaited him.
Open your body.
Nacimiento 4:40.
Ay, baby. Oh, sí.
And then he was born, you guys. It was so crazy. And they gave him to me and I put him on my chest, kind of how he is now. He was covered in vernix, which is like the coolest thing in my opinion. And I held him and I was just in my own little like bliss high of how damn cool that was. Like, I just birthed a human, you guys. I did it, you know? I did it in the way that I had wanted to so bad for so long. And it was just super, super amazing, super special. It took me a couple seconds and then finally, you know, I checked between his little legs. I was like, oh, we have a boy. And we had a boy. So I wasn't in the birth pool for too long. Luna did wake up not long after. She came, met her brother, approved, and then went back to bed. Just so that he wasn't going to get cold as the water was cooling down. The air is cold compared to the warmth of your body, and they helped transition me over to the bedroom. So my mother-in-law just came back with my girls from visiting an auntie, and Jerry picked them up. So he's back sleeping with Rio, napping in our bed. The girls are watching a movie, and I'm going to finish telling you guys about Rio's birth. After I got out of the birth pool, I made my way to the bedroom where we had everything ready with the mattress protector and the plasticky sheet thing, cozy blankets, all the good stuff to prepare for the after birth process. Now, if you've never given birth or seen someone give birth or know much about birth, yes, there is more to the entire process than just having the baby and getting all the newborn snuggles. So the afterbirth process is something that I was definitely not prepared for my first time around, even my second time around, because both girls' births were so different. I kind of knew what to expect this time, but being at a home birth, again, it was just a new experience for me. So I laid down with Rio in our bed. We got nice and comfy, and the midwife said, you know, you'll start to feel some more contractions here right away. The placenta has to detach from the walls of the uterus, and then you birth the placenta as well. A couple contractions later, the placenta was ready to come out as well. A few gentle pushes, and we had a placenta. Rio's cord attached to the placenta for an hour and a half, I want to say, about there. So as soon as the placenta came out, they put it into a container, and the container just sat right beside me for the time being. You guys can definitely take that up upon yourselves if you want to do some research of the amazing benefits of delayed cord clamping and the lotus birth, which is allowing the placenta to sit for an extended period amount of time. So we did let the placenta sit until the umbilical cord was completely drained of blood. And in summary, this basically just allows the nutrients and the blood that the placenta holds to drain fully to baby. That is their blood, their shared womb blood. And it kind of, to me now, feels wrong unless absolutely necessary, cutting the cord any earlier than before it's ready and before it's completely drained. So it was really cool the first time I touched my umbilical cord right after he came out when we were in the birth pool still. I reached down and touched my umbilical cord and you can feel it pulsating. You can feel the flow of the blood and the fullness and the life that it has. And after that 2-hour window, it was just kind of slimy and rubbery feeling. So I knew at that point that it done its job. It nourished my baby from the inside, and we could then release it from our physical being. We could then say goodbye to it in a sense. So Jerry did cut the cord. The midwives first tie a string. I know back in Canada they put a little like clamp on their belly button. The midwives just took a string and tied it multiple times, however they do it. Placenta was cut. He decided that he was going to find his way to my breast for the first time. Man, breastfeeding is so cool. And the instincts that newborn babies have is even more amazing. They can like smell out mom, and they know where that milk is. They know where that source of nourishment and comfort is, and they make their way there. Even as tiny and as sleepy and as out of this world as they still are, they make their way to the nipple. So he found the boob right away. He has been a pro at nursing ever since.
There you go. Almost.
They cleaned me up. I didn't need any stitches. I had a very, very minor tear, which I think was aware of in my own mind, that it actually had happened. As we were laying comfortable, settled in our little, you know, very fresh postpartum bliss bubble, it came up that I maybe was not quite ready for, and it took me a little bit by surprise. My midwives had asked me if I wanted a placenta smoothie, and at first I was like, a what? Come again? Like you're just gonna blend my placenta up into a smoothie and I'm gonna drink it? Animals in the wild do it all the time. Women do it all the time. It wasn't something that I thought I would take the offer up on. But, you know, I thought, why not? I did get the capsulation package from my midwives, which I will be sharing in not this video, but probably the next, and a little bit of our postpartum journey. So stay tuned for that. But I definitely did drink a placenta smoothie in the hour following Rio's birth. If you're curious, it was about this much placenta, and it was ground up with an abundance of bananas and strawberries and other fruits that I had in the fridge, some hemp hearts, some chia, all the good stuff that you kind of add into your morning smoothie. They made that for me plus a little placenta, and I might add that it was delicious. And that was the birth of our baby boy, Rio Felipe, our mighty river. He was born in Cancer season, so he is a Cancer, he is a water sign, he was born in the birth pool. We're actually relocating towards the ocean in the near future. Even the details down to the belly painting we did just hours before meeting him, it all just kind of makes sense. The stars all align, and he is a very special, very important puzzle piece to our family.
Say hi, baby brother. Look, he's smiling at you.
Yes, he's so cute. I can see the belly button. It's so funny.
That's the umbilical cord.
If you aren't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on alerts so that you don't miss any upcoming Mama Om videos. Next week, or next video I should say, whenever I get around to that one, I'll be sharing some of the Q&As that I had posted on my social media. I will be touching on the postpartum journey so far and a few more of the details and differences between home birth in Mexico and my previous experiences back in Canada. I think that is all for today. I thank you so much for tuning in today, for holding space, for all your beautiful words and congratulations and love felt from afar. It's definitely appreciated, it's definitely felt and reciprocated. And I will talk to you guys next week.